Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon when you are watching this video lecture. In the earlier sessions, we discussed about the theory of production related to short run operations also and long run also. Now, let us continue the discussion with the theory of cost. As far as the theories of production and theories of costs are concerned, both of them are very closely related with each other. The effect, impact, and the concept of how the things work in the short run and long run will be same, but the only point is, in case of production, we focus on the output in quantitative terms, whereas in case of cost, we focus on monetary terms, that is in the money form. So, with that difference, we will understand the theories of cost, already keeping our understanding about the theories of production in mind. But before entering into the real short run and long run cost behavior, we need to understand certain terms related to the theory of cost. Just like in the case of production also, we have to understand what is production, what are factors of production, what are the features of different factors of production. That was all basic understanding of the concept of production. But the real law of production or the theory of production contains in the law of variable proportions and the law of returns to scale, and then production optimization. Those are the real technical theories of production, we can say. Prior to that, it is all about concept of production and how production happens with the use of different factors of production. Similarly, here in the unit 2 of chapter 3 also, first we have to examine what is the meaning of costs and what are different types of costs. Then we will enter into the real technical aspects related to cost function and how the cost function will be working or demonstrating the nature of costs in the short run and long run, similar to the theories of production. And of course, then we have to link both the production function and cost function and see what are the commonalities between them and how these two are so closely interrelated with each other. And then we have to also understand in this chapter what are economies of scale and what are diseconomies of scale. And naturally, whenever we say scale, we already know that we are talking about long run approach. And why economies of scale and diseconomies of scale, and this unit 2 of chapter 3. But of course, the terminology and different types of cost, concept of cost is one thing that is very important, not only at this foundation level, even at the latter levels of intermediate and even final. As you might be aware, there is a subject of cost and management accounting in the intermediate level, the same subject called as performance evaluation, etc. in final level. But ultimately, popularly, we just call it costing. So this costing as a subject, as a paper, is there in both intermediate and final levels also. This chapter or unit about understanding what is cost can be looked at as a very basic foundation for the future learning related to costing, which anyway will happen at later stages. But if we understand the concept of costs clearly here, naturally it becomes easier at the next levels to use these concepts into different applications for solving problems at those levels. And as of now, at foundation level, we don't have any problems and all. Numerical examples are very less. But still, the theoretical and conceptual understanding of cost is must. So that's what we'll try to start with when we look at the unit 2 of chapter 3. Of course, already as we discussed earlier, the business decisions that are taken by the organizations are definitely based on the cost of production also. But what we discussed earlier was the relationship between inputs and output in physical quantities. But now what we are going to look at is in money value, in monetary terms. What is the money value for output? That is the sales potential or revenue, we can call it. And the concepts of revenue are contained in another chapter. But mostly what we focus here in this chapter is the money value of inputs. Money value of inputs is nothing but cost of production. So this cost analysis, definitely whatever we are going to try and do here is nothing but the study of behavior of the costs in relation to one or more production criteria. Like for example, what is the size of output, or the scale of operations, or the prices of the factors of production, and some other economic variables. So many variables will definitely be there in real life. But basically what we are concerned here as part of cost analysis is about, simply speaking, the financial aspects of production. Once again, financial does not mean we are going to look at financial management and all. That will be once again dealt in the later levels. But financial aspects here, when we say, we mean monetary aspects, money aspects of production. So in simple terms, production theory converted into monetary terms is cost theory. That's all. Because in the production theory, we looked at physical aspects. Now we look at financial aspects or monetary aspects. For that purpose, we definitely need to understand some of the important concepts of costs. And these are very important, as I said, not only at this level, even at later levels also. These names we should be remembering and understanding what do they actually mean. One of the important classifications here, and this is going to be core also when we understand the cost theories later, always we should have clarity about this distinction between accounting costs and economic costs. Why I say it is important is, this has the capacity of distracting us very easily. And if we are vulnerable, definitely we will fall in the trap of what we call so-called confusion. There is nothing to be confused if we understand it clearly. If we try to mix the things up, naturally the confusion will happen. So the idea is to avoid such confusion and to have clarity about what is the distinction between accounting costs and economic costs. Let us understand first of all what are the costs that entrepreneur may incur while he introduces various factors of production. He has to pay a price for the factors of production, definitely yes. Factors of production are not going to come for free. Whenever he employs these factors of production, he has to pay. So what does he pay? He has to pay so many things. Just for example, he has to pay wages to the workers. He has to pay the price for the raw materials when he purchases them. and whatever the fuel and power he uses, electricity, etc. And he has to pay the rent for building if required. If at all he has borrowed some money, he has to pay interest on the money that is borrowed. So depending upon the type of business and what type of cost structure they will have, every entrepreneur, every organization will have different costs of production. These are all the costs which involve cash outlay. We have to always keep that in mind. Paying wages means really we are paying money. Paying for raw materials means, purchasing raw materials means we have to really pay money to our suppliers. Money goes out in all these things. Electricity bill comes, you have to pay money. Rent has to be paid. Interest has to be paid. So what is the common point in all these things? All these things are payable. Definitely they have to be paid. Okay, we may say, should we pay everything now only? Can we postpone it? That's a different story. Maybe we purchase the raw materials now and pay to the supplier after 2 months if he allows us a credit period of 2 months. That's okay. But still we have to pay after 2 months. Like that, whether it is paid immediately or after some time, definitely all these costs are out-of-pocket costs. Out-of-pocket costs which involve cash outlay now or in future. But definitely those are all having a cash outlay for sure. That is one point. And of course, these are all included in the cost of production, no doubt. And in general, we call them as accounting costs. So what can we conclude here or understand? What are accounting costs now? Those are the costs which involve cash payments by the entrepreneur. The organization, entrepreneur not necessarily means one person. The organization, whichever the business organization we are talking. So simply speaking, all the accounting costs will have some cash payment. Definitely, entrepreneur has to pay to somebody in regard to these costs. And these words are important. And what we call these type of costs? We can call them out-of-pocket costs, or we can even call them explicit costs. Explicit costs, which involve cash payment, and all of them commonly called as accounting costs. Why we call them accounting costs? Because these are all accounted for in normal financial accounting also. Whenever some expenditure is incurred, it has to be accounted for. So it will be called as accounting costs, and these are explicit costs. And naturally, these include all the payments which are made by entrepreneur to the suppliers of various productive factors. So these are the costs which are already incurred by the firm. And what is the job of the accountants is to record them in the financial statements of the firm, which you will understand also when you learn financial accounting. We don't have to know financial accounting to know what accounting costs are. How to account for accounting costs? That is not our job. Now, of course, it will be our job, but in the subject of accounting. That is a different topic altogether. But here what we should know at least is these are explicit costs which involve real cash payments, and these all costs will be accounted for after they are incurred by the firm. So we call them accounting costs. Now let us take this further. The entrepreneur who has invested certain amount of capital in the business also, all the factors of production, for example, labor got wages, land or building got rent. But what about capital that the entrepreneur has invested in the business? there is some amount that is invested in the business by the entrepreneur. He might or might not get the return in the form of profits, but is there any price that the organization really pays the moment the entrepreneur introduces capital into the firm? The answer is no. Once again, when we say capital, we have to understand here we are talking about own capital. Capital can be own capital also, loan capital also. Loan capital is different. Loan is nothing but amount borrowed from others. Definitely on that we already pay interest. That is also an explicit cost. That is also an accounting cost, because it is borrowed from outsiders. But what about the own money of the entrepreneur? The businessman himself has introduced some money into the business. What about that money? Will the business pay anything to him immediately? It may pay in the form of profits in future, or if there are no profits, it may not pay also. But here we need to understand this very important concept, abstract concept of opportunity cost of the capital that the entrepreneur has invested in the business. How can we understand this? Is with an if. If the capital invested by the entrepreneur in this business, if it had been invested elsewhere, it would have earned a certain amount of interest or dividend. This is all if, would, had it been, all these things. These words you have to be very careful. Not really happening. If the capital which the entrepreneur has invested in this business, if at all, instead of investing in this business, imagine, let us say he had just deposited that in a bank account with a fixed deposit, let us say. He would have earned some amount of interest, right? But now, by not depositing with the bank, by investing that money with this business, he is losing that interest. That is one part. And not only that, even the entrepreneur may have some time devoted for this particular business. Imagine, instead of doing this business, if he has worked somewhere for somebody, he would have earned some salary. But now the owner is devoting his time to the business only, and he is adding his own entrepreneurial or managerial ability to do the business here. He is contributing to the business. So once again, had he not set up his own business, he would have sold his services to others for some positive amount of money. Once again, had he not, if at all, instead of starting his own business, if he has sold his services to others means doing a job in a company elsewhere, he would have definitely got some positive amount of money, for sure, some salary he would have earned. Now, by starting this business as an entrepreneur, he may or may not get any positive amount of money, doesn't know that. If profits are there, okay, fine. If losses are there, still he has to bear that. So these are the two things we can, for example, understand. Such costs which are not actually incurred by the organization, but still the entrepreneur will have to take them also into consideration while taking decisions. In general, we can call them as opportunity costs or implicit costs or economic costs. Economic cost is inclusive of accounting costs. So if we say accounting cost plus implicit costs, we can call that as total as economic costs. So what are the implicit costs we are talking about here? One implicit cost is the return the entrepreneur has lost if he has invested the same amount of money elsewhere. He had not invested. If he had invested, he would have got some return, Now by investing that money in this business, he has lost that. Second thing is, let us say the salary that he might have earned elsewhere if he worked under somebody rather than starting his own business. Both of them are lost opportunities. Why these opportunities were lost? Because he started this business. So should they also be considered as costs of this business or not is the question. From accounting point of view, we do not include these costs. So in accounting, we do not include these costs. So when we say accounting costs, those have to be really paid by the organization, already to be incurred by the organization. However, these costs are opportunity costs, not really incurred by the organization. Organization is not paying any interest on capital. So the points to be noted here, if at all, from accounting point of view or financial point of view, organization will not pay any interest on capital to the owner. No. Organization will not pay any salary to the proprietor also. No. Both are not paid by the organization. Then some of you may say, who would have had some accounting experience already. Sir, there is an interest on capital, there is salary to proprietor, we have accounted for them earlier. It was there. How can you say it is not there? But if you remember, these two are only just adjusted, not really paid. For example, both of them, if you treat them as costs to the business, if at all, we treat them as costs to the business, they will have to be debited to the profit and loss account. In other words, they will reduce the profits of the business. And again, the both of them will be added to the capital. So what is happening? Profit got reduced. Because of them, capital got increased. And where will the profit go? That will again go to capital only, which is related to the owner. So what is the net impact on the capital because of these two items? Zero. Effectively, there is no impact on the capital. Why? Because once it is added, once it is deducted, plus and minus nullified. So don't go by the accounting entries, as you might know. Sometimes not knowing is better than knowing. Sometimes. Because we can know fresh without any existing biases and existing misinformation also. So in spite of or irrespective of whether we know how to account for interest on capital or salary to proprietor, practically it doesn't make any sense for the proprietor or entrepreneur to pay interest to himself. Imagine if you have 1,000 rupees in one pocket, taking it out from that pocket and putting it in another pocket does not mean some great job has been done. That is not a transaction. That is not something which can be even recognized also. Taking from top pocket and keeping it in back pocket or vice versa. Taking from one pocket and putting it in another pocket is not a transaction. But still, accounting might have all those things. Let us not enter into that. But practically, what is the use of that? Nothing. Nobody will pay to oneself. So this logic we have to understand. But don't try to apply the logics in accounting. If the question asks for a treatment in accounting, you have to do according to that. You cannot say it doesn't make sense and all. That is a question you have to answer. That is your job. But essence, should we know or not? Yes, we should know. Essence is what? Both interest on capital and salary to proprietor are not really the costs to the business, and they are not revenues to the proprietor, because he is not getting anything from that. Even if for formality he does that, it is nothing but taking from one pocket and putting it in another pocket of the same person, because proprietor is the same. Hence, these two costs, for example, cannot be called as accounting costs. They are not included in accounting costs, but they will form part of economic costs. They will form part of economic costs. These are not only economic costs. So once again, economic costs is a superset. Accounting cost is a subset of that. So the economic costs include these two things. The normal return on money capital invested by the entrepreneur himself in his own business. Simply you can call it as interest on capital or return on capital that he would have got had he invested elsewhere. Second, the wages or salary not paid to the entrepreneur but could have been earned if the services were used elsewhere. These two are not included in accounting costs, but they are included in economic costs. Similarly, this can be extended. For example, the owner has his own house, and imagine, let us say, he's a doctor or a chartered accountant doing practice in his own house. First floor residence, ground floor clinic, let us say, doctor. Doctor is also a profession, it is also production, okay? Services are also to be considered as production, we know that already. But the point is, will he pay rent to himself for the ground floor that is occupied? If he does, that doesn't make sense. Again, he is taking from one pocket to another pocket. So the point is, any factors, all factors owned by the entrepreneur himself, if at all he employs them in his own business, then any monetary rewards which are not paid, actually not paid, but still those are all considered as part of economic costs. So this is a very important aspect. These two are just examples. Third one also can be added here, rent of own building. Somebody is doing business in his own building, he will not pay rent to himself. Business will not pay rent to him because he and business are same. Practically, accounting wise, we may say, oh, they are different and all. So the point is, the entrepreneur really pays certain expenses, generally who are all outsiders. Outsider means other than himself. Other than himself, everybody is outsider. He pays wages, he pays rent to the building if at all he has leased it from somebody else. He'll pay for the suppliers of raw materials, he'll pay for the electricity, telephone, travel expenses, stationery, like this many expenses the entrepreneur will incur. Those are all accounting costs. Those accounting costs plus these opportunity costs is what is called as economic costs. So we need to very much understand already, economic costs is the superset, accounting cost is already included in that. That is a subset. So the point again to notice, economic costs already take these accounting costs into consideration, but in addition they also take into account the amount of money the entrepreneur could have earned, would have earned if he had invested the money or sold his services elsewhere, or if he has rented the same building to elsewhere, he would have got rent. So whatever all the money that he is missing that money. Why is he missing that money? Because he has introduced those factors into the business himself, and his own business he is doing that. So he will not pay interest to himself, doesn't make sense. He will not pay salary to himself, doesn't make sense. He should not pay rent to himself. that also doesn't make sense. So there is no payment here, but still, is that a cost? Yes, it is also a cost. But what type of costs these are all? These are implicit costs. These are implicit costs. And what were accounting costs? Those were explicit costs, which are really incurred, actually paid by the firm. Okay? There are several names we can give to them. This implicit costs, we can even call them opportunity costs, because if is the important point here. If he has invested the same money elsewhere, he would have got some return. If he has sold his services elsewhere, he would have got some salary which he is not getting. Means he is losing an opportunity of earning some return. He is losing an opportunity of earning some salary. He is losing some opportunity of earning some rent by not using the next best alternative. By not using next best alternative. But which alternative he has chosen? To introduce all these inputs, his effort, his time, his intelligence, his money, his own building, everything he has inputted for his own business. But he has not used them for the next best alternative. By not using them in the next best alternative, he has lost some opportunity. That is why we can call them also as opportunity costs. So simply to sum it up, accounting costs are explicit costs. And what are economic costs? You will say implicit costs. No. Economic cost is not equal to implicit cost. Economic cost is equal to explicit cost plus implicit costs. In other words, accounting costs plus implicit costs. So once again I am reminding you, economic costs is a superset which includes accounting costs already. Accounting costs are just only taking explicit costs into consideration. Economic costs will take both accounting costs as well as implicit costs also into consideration. That is a point to be noted. And these implicit costs are not normally accounted for, but they are important. They are very important while taking some decisions. For example, pricing decision he has to make. What should be the price of the product that he has to sell? Should he consider the implicit costs also or not? Ideally, yes, he should. They are very important to be included while taking decisions, though they are not accounted for. Because if he takes only explicit costs into consideration, he might price the product low. He might earn some profit. But will that profit be matching with the opportunity lost? What he has not earned, the interest that he did not earn, the salary that he did not earn, the rent that he did not earn, all put together, at least his profit should match that, right? At least. Then that makes sense to run this business. If he is running a business with only accounting profits, which means revenues minus accounting costs, that accounting profits may not be equal to the examples of implicit costs, then we can say he might earn accounting profit, but actually he is incurring economic loss. So as important the accounting cost and economic costs are, the opposite of that also is important. Accounting profit, economic profit. Accounting profit is what? Revenue, sales revenue minus accounting cost, that is accounting profit. Economic profit is what? Sales minus accounting cost minus implicit costs also. In other words, sales minus economic costs gives us economic profit. So naturally, the accounting costs will be lesser than economic costs. Economic costs are more than accounting costs. Why? Because economic cost is equal to accounting cost plus something. So economic cost is always more than accounting cost. And when we reverse it, naturally, the economic profit will be always less than accounting cost because sales is same. Sales is going to be same. That is reality. So a firm may have accounting profit, but still it might have economic loss. Quite possible. If that accounting profit is not able to cover the opportunity cost or implicit cost. Same thing, interest, salary or rent. If it is the case, then we can say that person is earning economic loss. If a person is earning economic profit, then we can say the person is earning or making revenue more than economic costs. That is fantastic if it is possible to do so. But while taking decisions, it is ideal to take economic costs, not accounting costs. Accounting costs will give us a track record of the expenses or costs which are already incurred. That will only tell us one way, we can say post-mortem. Already incurred and we are just recording them. But economic costs are not just useful for post-mortem, they are useful for taking decisions also. So that is very important aspect to note. Difference between economic cost and accounting cost. So if at all an entrepreneur is earning normal profit, what does it mean? He is covering the entire economic cost. Then we can say he is earning normal profit, because normal profit is part of implicit costs. For example, if the total revenue received by an entrepreneur just covers both implicit and explicit costs, then what we can say, he is getting zero economic profits. No economic profit. But is there accounting profit? Yes. Accounting profit is there. That is called normal profits. So normal profit can also be called as zero economic profit, where the entrepreneur was able to earn a revenue equal to both explicit as well as implicit costs. Zero economic profit, but still there is a positive accounting profit, which we call as normal profit. When can we say a firm is earning supernormal profit or positive economic profits or abnormal profits? When it is able to earn profits over and above these normal profits. In other words, when can we say a firm or entrepreneur is earning positive economic profits? Positive means plus, or we can call it abnormal profits or supernormal profits. When the revenues are greater than the total sum of explicit costs and implicit costs. That is a very important aspect. Many questions can be expected from this. So difference between accounting costs and economic cost, accounting profit and economic profit, we have to understand very clearly. Accounting costs cover only explicit costs. Economic costs cover both explicit and implicit costs. Accounting profit is revenue minus accounting costs. Economic profit means revenue minus economic costs. And when a firm is said to be earning normal profits, when it has zero economic profits, that is called normal profits. Then why are we calling it as profit? Because it is a positive accounting profit, but still zero economic profit. When the revenue is exactly equal to the explicit and implicit costs put together. But if the revenue is more than the explicit and implicit costs put together, then a firm is said to be earning supernormal profits or positive economic profits or abnormal profits. So that is accounting costs and economic costs. Let us quickly take an example of how these accounting costs and economic costs can be understood with numbers. Let us say these are all the expenses or explicit costs of an organization. So it has to pay wages to laborers who are all working. It has to purchase the raw materials. Just some examples we are taking, already which we observed earlier. Let us say power and fuel bill they have to pay, and other expenses like telephone and electricity, telephone and other technological expenses like internet, etc. Printing and stationery, like that. Many expenses organizations will incur. Every organization will incur different types of expenses. Let us just take some imaginary numbers for each of them. In a particular year, organization is paying. Organization is paying. These are the expenses that it is incurring and amount it is paying. Let us say it incurs 1 lakh rupees of wages cost, and say 2,50,000 rupees worth of purchases it will do. Some 20,000 rupees of power and fuel expenditure it might incur. So some 30,000 rupees of telecom and other technological costs it might incur. Say another 50,000, or let us say another, let us take so this is also 20,000. Say 10,000 rupees of, just for convenience purposes, these numbers can be imagined. So these are the costs that an organization is incurring. And what can we call all of them? As accounting costs. So what is the total of accounting costs here? Total accounting cost how much here? So that is 2,50,000 plus 1 lakh, 3,50,000 plus 50,000. Around 4 lakhs rupees is the accounting cost of this particular organization. Right? Let us say it has made, in that year, it was able to generate a revenue, sales revenue you can call it, of 5 lakhs rupees. So what can we say? They have a sales of 5 lakhs, cost of 4 lakhs. So definitely there is a accounting profit of 1 lakh. Yes. There is an accounting profit of 1 lakh. That is accounting profit. Right? Now, are these the only costs? For economic cost purposes we will take? No. Once again, what we will consider for economic costs, there may be, let us say, interest on capital that he has not received. But if at all the same proprietor has invested it elsewhere, he would have received something. Let us say he has introduced already, which is not here, but already he has introduced a say capital of say 5 lakhs rupees. On that, elsewhere he would have got say 50,000 rupees of interest at the rate of 10%. Normally he would have earned, but he did not earn it because he has introduced that money in this business. Same way, if he worked elsewhere for the same time, so salary to the proprietor, let us say, salary to the proprietor, he would have earned if he worked elsewhere, just for some imaginary number, say 30,000 rupees he would have earned if he worked elsewhere. Same way, imagine if he is doing this business in his own premises. So rent to the proprietor, rent to the building which is owned by the proprietor, let us say, that is 20,000, which is not earning, which the organization is not paying. Organization is not paying that. There is no explicit cost involved here. But we will consider them also when we take economic costs into consideration, because economic costs will include both explicit and implicit costs. So what is the total of these implicit costs here? That comes to around 1 lakh rupees, right? So that is the total of implicit costs. Can we say 1 lakh is the economic cost? No. Economic cost is different. Total of economic cost is equal to accounting costs, that is 4 lakhs, plus implicit costs, that is 1 lakh. So what is the total of economic costs here? That is 5 lakhs, which includes accounting costs. This is the important point. You should never miss while solving the questions. So what is the total economic cost is 5 lakhs. And as we know already, his overall sales was 5 lakhs rupees. Now his total economic cost is also 5 lakhs rupees. So what can we call it as economic profit? 0. There is no economic profit. Economic profit is 0. But is there a profit accounting wise? Yes. How much was accounting profit in the same case? It was 1 lakh. This 1 lakh is called as normal profit. That's what we are talking about. So this 1 lakh is what? Normal profit, where the economic profit is 0. If the economic profit is 0, there is a positive accounting profit. That is called normal profit. And by the way, all these costs are real and explicit. These costs are opportunity costs and implicit. But the numbers remain same. Cost wise, the total of accounting cost is 4 lakhs. Total of economic cost is 4 lakhs plus implicit cost of 1 lakh, total 5 lakhs. That's what we have already. In this scenario, what we got is economic profit 0, normal profit. This is normal profit of 1 lakh rupees. That is arrived at in this particular case or example. Now let us just change the revenue a little bit. Let us say instead of 5 lakhs rupees, let us say the sales revenue is 6 lakhs. Then what? Then definitely things will change. Accounting profit will not be 1 lakh. Economic profit will not be 0. How much it will be? Accounting profit will be naturally 2 lakhs instead of 1 lakh. Why? 6 lakhs sales minus total of accounting costs 4 lakhs. Now accounting profit is 2 lakhs. Economic profit is how much? 6 lakhs minus total of economic costs 5 lakhs. So 6 minus 5, that comes to economic profit of 1 lakh. So economic profit now is different. It is 1 lakh. Positive economic profit. So what should we call this? Should we call this normal profit? No. This is what we call as supernormal profit or abnormal profit. This is supernormal profit. Supernormal profit of how much? 2 lakhs. And economic profit of 1 lakh, which is positive. So here, supernormal profits are achieved by the firm, we can say, where economic profits are positive, which means the accounting profit 2 lakhs is more than the implicit costs of 1 lakh. Accounting profit of 2 lakhs was able to cover all the implicit costs here, which are all included in this 1 lakh. Then there is a positive economic profit. That's what is called a supernormal profit situation. Now let us take another scenario, possibility, where let us say the sales are 5 lakhs, sorry, let us say the sales are 4 lakhs 80,000. Sales are, say, 4,80,000. That is the sales. Now, again the numbers will change. Now, how much will be the accounting profit? It will be different. How much will be the economic profit? It will be different. Definitely. Yes. But the costs, of course, will remain the same. Costs are facts. Sales is also a fact. 4,80,000 is the sales. Total accounting cost is 4 lakhs. So how much is the accounting profit here? That is 80,000. 80,000 is the accounting profit. Now economic profit. Now look at this. Sales is 4,80,000, but total of economic cost is 5 lakhs. So economic profit is not profit actually. It is a loss of 20,000. So what can we call this scenario as? There is a not even normal profit. We cannot call this normal profit also. It is just some accounting profit, that's all. We don't need to give any name for it. No name for it. Profit. Just profit. Accounting profit. Accounting profit of 80,000 is there. But economic loss of 20,000 is there. Negative profit is nothing but loss. So this situation tells that though the entrepreneur has earned some accounting profit, that accounting profit was not enough to cover the implicit costs. So what can we conclude from all this? Various things of questions can be asked from this, but if you understand the concept, any question can be answered easily. Here, if the accounting profits are accounting profits we are talking. Accounting profits means already what? Revenue minus accounting costs. If accounting profits are equal to the implicit costs, I am not telling economic costs once again, implicit costs. If accounting profit is equal to the implicit cost, then economic profit is 0. And that is called as normal profit situation. That is normal profits. When accounting profit was able to cover the entire implicit cost, in our case 1 lakh rupees. If accounting profit was more than implicit costs, then economic profit is positive, greater than 0. That is positive. When if the accounting profits were able to cover implicit costs and more than implicit costs. In the earlier example, when we took second one, 2 lakhs rupees accounting profit was there. 1 lakh rupees of economic profit was there, which was positive economic profit. This is called supernormal profit. So this is normal profit. This is supernormal profit, what we are talking about. So what if accounting profits are less than implicit costs? Then economic profits will be negative. We don't call it anything, we just call it profit or accounting profit positive, economic profit negative. Why? That is the case we have here in front of us. The third case, where the accounting profit is not able to cover the implicit cost of 1 lakh. Accounting profit is only 80,000. Implicit costs are 1 lakh. So economic profit is minus 20,000, which is negative economic profit. So these are the three possibilities that are going to occur for any organization, depending upon how much revenue it is earning and how its economic profit and accounting profit are going to behave in relation to the cost structure of that company. So if there is a lot of implicit cost to be covered, then definitely the economic costs will be very, very higher than accounting costs. But always economic costs are higher than accounting costs only. Why? Because economic costs include accounting costs. So these are some of the relationships that you should understand, not just remember and by heart, understand them. So some other relationships like economic cost is always greater than accounting cost, naturally. Why? Because economic cost is equal to accounting cost plus something. So economic cost will be always greater than accounting cost. And another, naturally the opposite of this, economic profit, will it be always less than accounting profit? Yes, naturally yes, that also. Because of the reverse relationship, revenue is same. When economic cost is always more than accounting cost, economic profit will be always less than accounting profit. So this economic cost, economic profit, accounting profit, these terms and what do they mean, how do they matter in calculating the performance of the business is a very important aspect. With numbers, if you can have any example even for solving the questions, that will be much better rather than just remembering or by hearting these things. Just understand the difference between accounting costs and economic costs, and consequently accounting profits and economic profits. Very, very important discussion. This is difference between accounting costs and economic costs. Now the same things are actually repeated in different names. The logic, once you understand the first one, all others are just I would say variations of the same. We call them outlay costs and opportunity cost. What is outlay cost? Same thing once again. Outlay cost is accounting cost, actual expenditure on funds, say wages, materials, interest, etc. Those are outlay costs. Nothing but economic costs. Opportunity cost is what? Opportunity cost is the opportunity which is foregone. The cost of the next best alternative opportunity which was foregone is called as opportunity cost. Is it not what we are talking about all this time as implicit costs? Same. So nothing new here once again. The interest on capital what we took, or the salary that the proprietor could not earn because of not joining a job, or the rent the proprietor could not earn by not letting the property out, is opportunity cost. So in this case 1 lakh rupees is opportunity cost. That is what is implicit cost also. And in the same example what we have, 4 lakhs rupees is the accounting cost. That's what we can call as explicit cost also, or outlay cost also. Name itself indicates outlay means definitely there is a cash outflow for such type of costs, right? So that is the outlay cost and opportunity cost. Again and again, if we discuss 100 times also, the logic is same, right? That is the point of distinction between outlay cost and opportunity cost. Why opportunity cost is useful? That also, as we discussed already, it is related to decision making. Decision making definitely involves opportunity costs or implicit costs also, which means economic costs will become more relevant for decision making than accounting cost, and the outlay costs are those which are accounted for, and opportunity costs are in general not recorded in the books of accounts. All things same, nothing new here, right? So that is about outlay costs and opportunity cost. So the opportunity concept can be used in many cases. Practically, the opportunity loss of not working somewhere, if we consider that, then the cost of education definitely really comes out to be much higher than what we know. So normally when we say what is the cost of education for anybody, school to college to university to anybody who is studying, some tuition fees will be definitely there, and the cost of books, etc., which are all outlay costs, really going out of pocket costs. But normally we don't consider the opportunity cost that is involved. So here, anybody who is studying is not working elsewhere and studying. And while studying, he is losing the earnings because he is not working, rather he is studying. So there is some earnings which are foregone. That is opportunity cost. And if you consider that also as part of cost, then definitely the total cost of education will be much higher than just tuition fees and just attending classes or buying books, etc. So that is a logic that you can use for understanding purposes. But I'll put it this way. Let us say if some student is writing foundation exam of chartered accountancy and failing. So a lot of students, everybody will start at the same point after the +2, most of the people. And all of them write the foundation exam of chartered accountancy. Of course, some of them will pass and go to CA intermediate. And then of course articles and final. So if you observe this process, then there is articles and then final. How much time each of them takes is subjective. It may change from person to person. But in general, what is the minimum time? Let us take that only. Let us say after the 10+2, or normally called intermediate, normal intermediate, somebody enters into foundation and writes the exam. If he passes, definitely goes to the next level. But what if he fails? Let us say again he will attempt for foundation exam after 6 months. So one attempt, what popularly we call as, though I don't like the word, one attempt is gone because of failing. If it is gone because of corona and all, we cannot help it. If it is gone because of some other external reasons, then also there will be loss, but that is not in our control. But I am talking about the things which are in our control. If they are in our control, ideally if you study properly, after 10+2, a lot of people enter and they should pass the foundation exam and go to the next level. But if we don't pass, our entry into the intermediate got delayed by 6 months. What we think? Chalta, it's okay, it's a CA exam, people say it is tough, it is common to fail, what's the big deal? It's okay, that is one thought process. But if you understand the concept of opportunity cost, then definitely you will not say like that. Why is that? And we are talking pure money here, no sentiment, no ego and all. 6 months delayed here, so 6 months delayed admission into the intermediate for sure. Is this 6 months going to be delaying the articles also by 6 months? Definitely yes. So 6 months delay in the articles. So is this going to have the same 6 months delay in the final also? Definitely yes. Is this 6 months going to have a delay in the job, or let us say for example what you will do after the final also, or practice that you will start after the completion of final? Either way, is it going to delay this entire process by 6 months or not? Definitely yes. If you really understand the value of this 6 months in monetary terms, we are talking about opportunity cost. Really you are not paying anything for these 6 months. You may think, anyway I am paying coaching fees, ICA registration, books, etc., etc. That is okay. That is explicit cost that everybody pays. But if we don't do this process of foundation and other things correctly, what it will do is it will delay this entire chain. Taking only 6 months. For most of the people, it will be 6 months in foundation, another 6 months in intermediate. So that will add up to 12, 18 in multiples of 6. So I am not talking about that also. Only one mistake done, a small mistake. I am normally a fantastic student, but because of recklessness or whatever reasons, overconfidence, so many reasons will be there. Not adapting to the requirements. Many reasons are there because of which very bad luck that somebody failed foundation and delayed this entire process by 6 months. After that they realized the mistake, intermediate passed first attempt, joined in the articles, final also passed in first attempt. So that's the assumption we are taking. Only 6 months we are taking. What is the opportunity cost of this 6 months? It delayed the articles by 6 months. Let us just take only as a very normal rate, a small firm paying only say 4,000 rupees also per month. What is the opportunity cost of that? 24,000 rupees you lost. And this job or practice anyway we cannot quantify. Let us say because of this your job got delayed by 6 months, and that 6 months, let us say just once again only for very nominal type of jobs that usually fresh started accountants get, say 50,000 rupees per month. So that comes to around 3 lakhs. So what is the opportunity loss of this 6 months in rupees? That is 3 lakhs 24,000 rupees. And what we are bothered about, 5,000 rupees coaching fees, 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees, 30, 40. We are talking about these thousands. What is the risk that it is going to cost us in lakhs? That is what a CS student who understands the opportunity loss, opportunity cost will think, and not that. Okay. Just because we know opportunity cost concept, we will avoid it. But we should keep it in mind. Anything that is in the critical path. Foundation is in the critical path. Intermediate one group is in the critical path. So, at least any one group in the intermediate passing is the critical path. So, any delay in the critical path by 6 months will have that much of opportunity loss. And I have taken only 6 months. Imagine another 6 months, one in foundation, say one in inter, one in final. Just once again very conservative. A lot of people have many 6 months like that. So 18 months. And what is the opportunity cost? Forget about articles. Just only looking at job also. How much is the opportunity loss of this all delay or recklessness or just taking it light, and we call them attempts. We are talking about 9 lakhs rupees. We don't consider that. We just ignore that. Lakhs of rupees we are losing by not joining a right place or by thinking about only explicit costs. But we will not realize how much opportunity loss it could be there if we don't do this process scientifically, correctly, with the objective in mind. So that is a classic example of opportunity cost from a CS student point of view. So anytime if a bit of deviation or casual nature pops into our brain in this course, we have to keep in mind we are pushing our career by, in multiples of 6 months we are pushing it. Every time we fail, we are delaying it by 6 months, and that 6 months is equivalent to lakhs of rupees. Don't only consider the explicit costs of books, coaching fees, etc. Those will be anyway there, hostel fees, these will be anyway there. The implicit costs, my point here, is much more. And on the other side, if we do a proper work, join a right place, learn from right people, do the effort towards the goal in a very scientific manner, this becomes opportunity gain. That also we don't realize. Because it is opportunity loss and opportunity gain, which is not out of pocket. So common people only look at out of pocket costs. They don't understand the opportunity cost. So why I am telling all this in detail to you is, at least as CA students in this course, future financial experts, you should know what opportunity cost means. Though it is not visible, though you cannot see that, though it is not going out of pocket, if we ignore that, that means we are not taking a right decision. So definitely while decision making, while understanding the things in a clear perspective, the abstract concept of opportunity cost also should be taken into consideration. You cannot say because it is abstract, it is confusing. It is not. It is simple. Anything abstract cannot be confusing. That is the level of normal people and professionals, right? Normal people cannot identify, but the professional should be able to identify. That is where our journey is towards. So, opportunity cost is nothing but the revenue that is foregone, opportunity that is foregone by not choosing the next best alternative. That's what is opportunity cost. But here, how many next best alternatives can we choose? So now you can say that instead of doing this, if I have worked elsewhere, let us say as a clerk or somebody, I would have earned some money. Or if I worked, just for example, like a petrol bunk attendant, I would have earned this much money. Or if I worked in a restaurant as a waiter, I would have earned this much money. Or if I just became a Uber driver, I would have earned much more money. All these things we can take. 100 opportunities, possibilities are there. Can we take all of them into consideration one shot? No. No, that is not opportunity. Only one. What we are doing and what we are not doing, the next best alternative. Next best. What is the next best? That differs from case to case. So, that is opportunity cost. There will be so many alternatives after the next best alternative. We should ignore them. If we keep on taking all of them, nobody in the world can cover up their opportunity costs. That is just impossible. But at least we should cover the cost of losing the next best alternative is what economic cost is all about. And opportunity costs are nothing but implicit costs. Outlay costs are explicit costs or accounting costs. The names are different. Concept is same. If you understand the concept, all of them, you will be able to identify very clearly. So that is about economic costs and accounting costs, explicit, implicit costs, outlay costs and opportunity costs, whatever the name we call them. And once again, to just reiterate and keep you reminded, economic costs are not equal to implicit costs or opportunity cost. Economic cost is put together explicit and implicit costs. So economic cost is equal to accounting costs plus implicit costs. That you keep in mind. This is where a lot of times people do mistakes in problems. That is why I'm telling you. So that is about some of the aspects of cost related terminology. And there are some more other things like direct, indirect costs, incremental costs, sunk cost, etc., etc. We'll discuss this type of terminology related to costs and entering into the cost function and how the costs will behave in the short run and long run. We'll discuss in the coming classes. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Thank you very much.